Then we'll go to adoption of the minutes, please. That's 5.1. Can I get a mover? We'll do 5.1 and 5.2. First one will be 5.1. Can I get a mover and a seconder for both? Patrick and Melinda?
Just so you know, I have two separate resolutions for those.
Okay. Mark?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It was brought to my attention that there's some inaccuracies in the both sets of minutes, and I'm more than happy to provide those to you. In fact, the person who submitted those changes is here tonight, Dr. Daniel Page. I'm not sure if you want them read out or if you'd like a copy of that so we could see them, what is most efficient for council.
If you can read them out, Mark, I have an idea of what we have.
Sure. Okay, so on the October 21st meeting minutes, it's on page 2, and this is very specific. Dr. Daniel Page spoke about freedom of expression, transparency, and the wording of the procedure bylaw. His delegation was separated into 3 parts, where each included specific policy recommendations. Dr. Page, you're recommending 1, 2, and 3, right? Right. It's just that there's quite a bit of context here. There's a lot of text. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm more than willing to read it. But
go ahead.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have an idea what the changes are.
Oh, for sure. Okay. Daniel first commented on section 16. He referred to his previous delegation on the matter and the charter advocates letter submitted at the previous council. Daniel said not to introduce the phrase harassment free into the bylaw to make 16C more precise and limited, as he said the phrase other behaviors which may prove disruptive is vague and ambiguous, and to completely remove section 16D. So that's verbatim, if I'm accurate, right? Number 2, Daniel stated he did not support removing question period, and he supported an expansion of question period. He offered opposing arguments to the main justifications for removing question period and said that email is not a suitable for speaking to council in the chamber. Daniel also stated the chamber instead is the most appropriate place for residents to voice concerns to council, as there is a record of it among all of council. For emails, he also offered a recommendation that common queries made by email be called community questions and to publish these on an easy to find part of the website and link to these new posts using social media regularly. In section 7 and 7.2, Daniel recommended to increase times of releasing draft agendas. All items to be placed on the agenda, ignoring new changes to the delegation section, to at least 7 days instead of at least 4 days. Daniel then emphasized the importance of written notification for residents and a need for it, requesting a stronger requirement for written notification of residents for major policy items before they can appear on an agenda for third reading, vote/approval at a meeting. His specific policy recommendation was that direct written notification must be sent to at least 30 days before a second reading, and a third reading of a major bylaw cannot be voted on without this written notification being sent to the sent date of at least 30 days. 3, Daniel then commented on section 15 to give recommendations to improve archiving and documentation. Daniel recommended that section 15 should state that meeting minutes contain at least a detailed summary of all interactions to be recorded at the meeting, and that section 15.9 should change wording audio tape meeting proceedings to instead audio and videotape meeting proceedings. In addition to this, Daniel also recommended that a hot microphone should be present in the chamber to ensure all audio is recorded in the chamber and that the RM can use its already existing technology to broadcast and archive video of meetings on multiple websites. There are later parts of the minutes where details are also missing for completeness. These should be considered too. For instance, on page 4, in the question Daniel posed, it does not document the response received for the first part. Daniel presented a specific instance where a lack of sufficient notice, which the procedure bylaw can introduce, was a serious problem to his neighborhood in April and May of 24. Daniel said this was a failure of the procedure bylaw and said planning's notice was totally insufficient to protect his community. Also on page 5, in the question Daniel posed on why there was no public hearing, it does not document entirely the exchange. Where it was concluded the critique was deemed fair by Councillor Fuel. The issue was that this is an important bylaw, not that every bylaw needs a public hearing. And that's it on October 21st. Now, I know notes don't need to be verbatim, of course, because that's all audio recorded and so forth. So I'm just suggesting that we tweak these a bit to improve them.
Okay.
There's lots there, I know.
I know. Now, is it going to be the same thing for November the 5th? I'm just wondering if we should do it all together. Will it be another, is it similar problems with November the 5th?
It's much shorter. And I
On
can
November
read,
the 5th is?
yeah, I can read that to you if you like.
I think maybe what we'll do is do the one at a time there. But not my argument, but my idea with regards to that is these are just minutes. They're not verbatim comments about what happened there. This is kind of the digest version of what we've been doing for for decades there. So I don't think we should change it. Mainly, most of those comments are stuff that can be introduced and has been introduced at the public hearings and that question periods there. So I would be I don't see any reason why we would adjust these minutes here for that because I want to read an email there. I know you got that, Mark, but I'm not sure if everybody else has it there. It's from where is it? I'll find it here. Okay, it's from our CEO. She had mentioned a name. I don't want to mention the name out loud here. I would say our verbal conversations tend to be more in depth than what she provided me in writing. Her main point is that the minutes are not to be verbatim and should be taken without note or comment. Personal opinions, statements, and judgments should not be in the minutes. Only decisions of council and any pertinent information that should be noted that led to that decision. We further discuss minutes during a public hearing, which should then include the general objection if a resident objects to an application. And the only time residents' comments should be noted or in the minutes at that time. So I clearly agree with this individual. I'll give you a name off the record here later on if you like. But you got this email as well as myself there. So to introduce that into the to the minutes honestly makes no sense to me whatsoever because most of it is stuff that Mr. Page has brought up before during our meetings in one form or another. That's my comments with regards to that. If you want to go to November 5th, is there something the same there or different?
Yeah, so I would say to you, there's an ambiguous sentence as it makes it sound like Dr. Page made those statements. Daniel Page spoke about the September 24th special meeting minutes and advised that his comments were inaccurate, contained false information, some omitted, and some contain errors. This should read instead replace his with the minutes documenting his. Daniel Page spoke about the September 24th special meeting minutes and advised that the minutes documenting his comments were inaccurate, contain false information, some omitted, and some contain errors. So that's, I can table as information, but what I would say though is it's very important to know that, again, minutes are absolutely not verbatim, and I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that there's sometimes opinion that we won't want to put into minutes, but what I do need to tell you is that it's very clear that I'll always say that minutes of meetings are legal instruments that can be challenged in court and should reflect in future what was the context of the meeting. And so there's always an argument on how minutes should be made. I know that I've seen it many times, but I'm not going to argue this till I'm red in the tooth because I know what ultimately council will do here. And so there will be a day and a time when things will change, but I guess it won't be today. So thank you.
Thank you. And I just, it's there's an audio recording that has everything in there for that specific purpose. The minutes are simply that. They're just minutes, a brief detail. And as this lady from, assume from the minister's office has pointed out quite clearly, it's not to be verbatim. So that's just my comments on that. With that, could we get a show of hands? We'll do it one by one, please. If I can get the resolution read for 5.1.
Whereas the minutes of the special council meeting held October 21st have been previously distributed to council, be it resolved that the same be and are hereby approved.
I get a show of hands. Those in support of the special meeting minutes, October 21, 2024. That'll be Melinda, Glenn, and Patrick. Those opposed? That'll be Andy and Mark. If we can get the resolution for 5.2, please, November the 5th, council minutes.
And just to confirm, moved and seconded by the same? Or do
Yes,
you want a new
everybody good with
mover and
that?
seconder?
Yeah.
So Mayor Tarian and Councillor Warren.
Yeah.
Whereas the minutes of the council meeting held November 5th have been previously distributed to council, be it resolved that the same be and are hereby approved.
I get a show of hands. Those in support of 5.2 council minutes for November the 5th. That's Melinda, Glenn, and Patrick. Those opposed? That's Mark and Andy as they're passed. If we can go to a question period, that's item number 6 on our agenda there, and 15 minutes is allocated for that. And we'll go. Sorry. We'll go online first. Janet.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's just that we inadvertently turned the screen off here. I think we can go ahead though. Go ahead, Janet. Oh, you can't? Oh, okay.
I have a couple of questions, but the the main one is on item 11.4, your customer service policy. And I was away last week when this was discussed at the COW meeting, or I would have raised my concerns earlier. As I understand it, the policy is focused on or encompassed on counselor, employee, and volunteer expected standards for responding to customers. My comments are more from a customer's perspective because this is not a consideration in this policy, in my opinion.
What's the question, ma'am?
I'm getting to it. Customer and service should be the focus of this policy. Is there any mention in your policy of confidentiality that would be required by anyone responding to or a complaint, or, for example, or the lack of address? It's intended to, this, as I see it, it's intended to discourage residents' input and strays from past practice. We always used to promote confidentiality of complaints. It's not in your policy. I can't find it. Can you show me where that is?
I'm looking. Is there confidentiality then, in the laws with regards to?
Well, everything the municipality does, we keep confidential. Anything that's submitted to a public meeting or a council meeting is considered public information. But any complaints or inquiries that we receive through our standard protocols, that's considered confidential information, and we don't share it with, especially complainants that are neighbor against neighbor. We do not provide that information. Everything's kept confidential. This policy has been in place since 2019, so the only changes to this one are including the complaint protocol and the new form to fill out. We do not take complaints verbally, and that's kind of been our standard practice, but we've never formalized it in a policy, so this formalizes that procedure and process. So if we want to add that, you know, confidentiality is adhered to for this, we can certainly add that wording in where appropriate.
Well, I think it is appropriate, because why would I sign my name to something that, you know, you're asking the residents, or, you know, to go this extra step, and it seems to satisfy administrative needs, but not citizen needs. So I guess the next part, is there a triage of handling complaints, or is it first in, first out? Like, there's no, there used to be, and you say 2019, and that was with the previous council, and we had a lot of changes made that maybe weren't as acceptable to the public as we would have liked. I'll be polite. But before that, there used to be a complaint form, a complaint tracking device that council could see. Maybe the public couldn't see, but you would see the number of complaints that came in. They were numbered, and how they were dealt with, and what the timelines were, and if, you know, what the status was. We're losing track, and you expect the public to believe you, to say that it's being kept confidential, but it once it's out there and it's in writing, you know, I really recommend council not approve this tonight, and rework it to have some of the customer service needs put into this, because it's customer service. I understand the staff needs to know how they have to deal with it, but you also have to understand from a customer perspective that we want to know how it's being dealt with, not that it's just being thrown around. So I'll leave it there.
I'm sorry, ma'am, your time is up, but I'll answer both questions. The customer service policy, putting it in there with regards to confidentiality, maybe we should put that in there. It's implicit in my words. What, in my opinion, is that it's if you're coming with a complaint, it's implicit that we're going to keep it confidential. So for us to put it in there, I don't see a problem with that. What does council think?
Yeah, I have no problem putting that in there.
Yeah, and as for the triage handling complaints, there it's they've got 2 days to respond to it. There is diary dates to be met with regards to this, so I think we've handling that very well.
Well, you're not. Right now, I can tell you I have 3 outstanding requests in. One was partially answered, but how these are being recorded and tracked is not even addressed in this policy. And you know, you cut me off, but you took time from my
No, I didn't cut you off,
question
ma'am.
period.
Your
But
5 minutes was over.
Pardon me?
Your 5 minutes is over.
I know I should be able to speak 5 minutes, but you and Colleen took 2 of them.
No, we
So-
didn't. We're trying to answer your question, ma'am.
Well, then I think that we have to kind of look at that, because if I have 5 minutes to speak, I think I should have 5 minutes to speak, and then you can answer my questions.
I did. I'm answering your
No, but
question
you
in
took
that
it
5
out of my
minutes.
5 minutes.
No, I didn't, ma'am.
Well,
Okay, we answered both your questions, ma'am. I think we'll look at adding that customer service confidentiality inside this. Thank you. Daniel?
Good evening. My name is Dr. Daniel Page. I'm your local computer science professor on Pine Ridge Road. I was originally going to be focusing on the customer service policy, but something more concerning has happened here in this chamber. I want to start with that question. I've already been here once before about the concern about inaccurate, false, or even potentially misleading information being placed into the minutes. This example tonight has a far more egregious one where now the council has approved minutes that straight up lie about what I've said. In addition, it's taken out policy item and recommendations I put forward on the 21st meeting. I want some comments from what's happening to this council and its care for truth, because I was here last week when there was discussion about misinformation and things of this sort. Integrity is necessary for people to trust that the people that give information to you are giving you reliable information. My question is very simple. Would council reconsider looking at these minutes to see they're amended?
We just passed that in council. We just passed the vote on that. So it's been carried. And I'll just say the response is that the main point was that minutes are not to be verbatim and should be taken without note or comment. Personal opinions, statements, and judgments should not be in the minutes. Only decisions of council and any pertinent information that should be noted that led to that decision. We further discussed minutes during a public hearing, which then that is not part of that there. That's the main context. And that's your answer right there, sir. If you got any problems with regards to that, it's what was part of the audio, then tell us what you think is part of the audio. But minutes are minutes. And I think we've addressed that many times.
Just to follow up on that, there's another question.
Yeah.
So like I said, if you listen very carefully to Councillor Miller, you'll see that what he had read was not what I said during the 21st verbatim. It was actually a short, concise summary of a very meaty delegation that had very specific policy recommendations. Other residents' delegations actually had policy recommendations down to the number and article. And I don't understand why mine, which had actually very specific ones meant to protect residents, is not in my summary. Can you explain?
So is it not in the audio, you mean?
No, in the minutes, in the
Well,
minutes.
I already answered that, sir. It
Yes.
says here, the main point that minutes are not to be verbatim and should not be taken without note or comment. If you've got a specific audio there that's not part of that, that's a whole different thing there.
Mhm.
If it wasn't picked up by our audio, then fine, then we'll try to address that. But minutes are minutes. It's not to be verbatim.
So just to clarify once again, if there's omissions, serious omissions from a delegation that does not capture the spirit of that delegation, as was discussed last time we had this conversation, would you consider revisiting those?
No, once it's passed by council, then I don't see any reason why we would revisit that. If the pertinent substance there is addressed for the delegations, it's not to go from the beginning to the middle and to the end exactly what was said. It just gives a brief synopsis and no notes. It's not verbatim. That's the main thing. It's not verbatim.
Yeah.
It's part of the package. But the audio is the entire thing, what was stated. This is just for minutes there, and it's like I say, I keep on saying this paragraph. It's not for verbatim. Sorry, and it should not be taken without notes or comment.
So just to reiterate my point, there is false, misleading, grave omissions in the minutes. As I've explained, and then, for example, the November 5th meeting, it straight up lies about what I said. Do you have any comments about that?
No, I don't, and I wouldn't say there's any lies with regards to that. That's the way it was interpreted there, and that's the way there's no malice here with regards to that. Like I say, this is it's just minutes. It's not to be verbatim, and that's what the audio is all about. Mark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a prime example where we have a resident who is speaking to a particular issue, sees it as misconstrued, a lie, he's bluntly said, and inaccurate. So I appeal to council that if you were to say something and it was recorded in minutes inaccurately, what you reflected, I can see how every one of us would take a point to have somebody reconsider that. So here we have a prime example of a human being who feels that these minutes do not reflect his accurate connotation or comments at this. So I'm just saying, you know, this is so critically important. And again, they're not verbatim, but he's saying to us that it's not the verbatim part. It's the interpretive structure of this that is not accurate. He doesn't want to be seen in history of having lies and misrepresenting the way he I guess provided his comments to council and to the public. So I'm not sure. I can't just pass him off and say that it doesn't matter. I would never want to say that to anyone.
And nobody's saying that. I'm reading here, Daniel Page spoke about the freedom, I'll read it. Freedom of expression, transparency, and the wording of the procedural bylaw. He referred to the Charter Advocates Canada letter submitted as at the previous council meeting. He supports the expansion of the question period as his best place for residents to voice concerns and allows all the council to hear the information. He mentioned that the ARM website is a poor tool for residents and council to engage with, and that there should be more options for streaming council meetings. He noted that the draft agenda should be posted a week earlier to allow more opportunity to hear from residents on an item. The minutes should contain a summary of all interactions as they appear incomplete. So what's the lie in there?
So it must be stressed. I didn't say it was a poor tool. You can actually go back to the audio recording. And furthermore, I was discussing what was actually brought up by Councillor Miller as the correct summary of my delegation, for which I was discussing community questions and the fact that there's no means for which, like say people send emails, because it was a whole discussion around, are emails equivalent to question period? And I spoke about how they're not the same thing because there's a lack of symmetry about who knows what information. And I discussed the idea of there's lots of questions that come to emails that are the same ones over and over again. I think that emailing, like if you get information from an email and you get a lot of time on a website, you could easily make that information available to people on like a community questions page. And this is something I discussed during my delegation. Neither is and it's worth noting the discussion about notification, it's not present at all in that summary. Likewise, the discussion I had about a few other items, you would not know which sections I was talking about during my delegation from that summary, which those were there to protect residents.
Okay, sir, I don't know how I can help you with regards to that. The summary here, I remember your dialogue there, and in my opinion, it summarizes it quite well. Whether you use the word poor tool for residents or not, the gist of that vernacular is that it's not the right tool, or that it's not a suitable tool for residents. I think that gets your point across. And I think your time is up.
So